You know what's weird about car payments? Most people don't think of them as a financial problem. They think of them as a normal part of adulthood. You graduate, get a decent job, maybe your income starts going up a little, and eventually someone tells you, you deserve a nicer car. And honestly, at first, it feels harmless. The dealership tells you it's only $600 a month. Maybe $700. Stretch it to 84 months and suddenly the dream car feels weirdly affordable. You sit in the driver's seat. The leather smells expensive. The dashboard lights up like a spaceship. For a second, you feel like you finally made it. Like all the hard work is finally paying off. But here's the part nobody talks about. That car payment might be the exact thing keeping you financially stuck. Not because cars are bad. Not because you should drive a broken-down piece of junk forever. But because most people completely misunderstand what a car payment is actually costing them. And no, I'm not just talking about the monthly payment. Because the real cost is much uglier than that. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how people with expensive cars don't always seem wealthy? Sometimes the guy driving the brand new luxury SUV is stressed about bills. Meanwhile, someone driving a 10-year-old Honda quietly has 6 figures invested. That seems backwards, doesn't it? Because we've been taught to believe expensive cars equal success. But real wealth doesn't work like that. In fact, the moment most people start making decent money, they accidentally fall into what I call the car payment trap. And the scary part? It feels responsible while it's happening. Here's how it usually starts. You get a raise. Maybe you go from making $50,000 a year to $65,000. Suddenly, your current car starts feeling too old. Not because it stopped working. Not because it's unreliable. But because your lifestyle changed. You start comparing. Your coworkers upgraded. Friends have newer cars. Social media makes everyone look richer than they actually are. And slowly, without even realizing it, your standards shift. The car that got you everywhere safely last year suddenly feels embarrassing. So you start browsing. Just looking. Nothing serious. Maybe something around $30,000. Then the salesperson says something dangerous. Don't focus on the price. Focus on the monthly payment. And that single sentence has probably destroyed more wealth than most people realize. Because once you stop looking at the total cost, your brain starts playing tricks on you. $650 a month doesn't sound terrible. But here's where things get interesting. Most people never stop to calculate what that payment is actually stealing from their future. And when you finally see the math, it becomes almost impossible to look at car payments the same way again. Let's say you finance a car for $700 a month. At first, it doesn't feel that painful. After all, people spend that much on rent upgrades, vacations, or random subscriptions they forget to cancel. So your brain tells you, I can afford it. And technically, maybe you can. But affordability is one of the most dangerous words in personal finance. Because there's a massive difference between, can I afford this? And, is this making me wealthier? Most people never ask the second question. Here's what nobody explains. That $700 payment isn't really $700. Once you add insurance, maintenance, registration, gas, taxes, and repairs, that affordable car suddenly costs closer to $1,000 a month. That's $12,000 a year. And over 5 years? You're looking at roughly $60,000 disappearing from your pocket. Now here's where the trap gets brutal. Because the car isn't growing in value. It's shrinking. The second you drive it off the lot, it starts losing money. Fast. Imagine buying something for $40,000. And a year later someone says, congrats. It's worth $30,000 now. You'd probably panic. But for some reason, when it comes to cars, we act like this is completely normal. And before anyone gets mad, this isn't about saying you should never enjoy nice things. That's not realistic. Cars matter. Reliability matters. Comfort matters. But there's a huge difference between buying a reliable car and financing an identity. Because if we're being honest, most expensive cars are emotional purchases, not logical ones. Nobody buys a luxury SUV because they carefully calculated the return on investment. They buy it because of how it feels, how it looks, what it says. And this is where psychology quietly starts working against you. Humans are wired for status. We naturally compare ourselves to people around us. You see someone your age driving something nicer, and suddenly your perfectly fine car feels outdated. Even if it still works perfectly. Even if it gets you exactly where you need to go. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The people who look rich are often the ones struggling the most financially. Because appearances are cheap. Payments are easy. Actual wealth? That takes patience. And the craziest part is that the people quietly building real wealth usually look normal. Almost boring. They drive used cars. They keep cars longer. They avoid giant monthly payments. Not because they can't afford something nicer, but because they understand something most people don't. Every dollar tied up in a car payment is a dollar that can't build freedom. And once you understand what that really means, you start seeing expensive cars very differently. Because the real cost of a car payment isn't what leaves your bank account today. It's what that money could have become tomorrow. And trust me, this is where the math starts getting painful. Let's do something most people never do. Let's calculate the real cost of a car payment. Imagine you're paying $800 a month for a car. Sounds normal, right? Millions of people do it. Now imagine instead of sending that money to a car loan every month, you invested it. Nothing crazy. Just a boring index fund averaging around 8 to 10% a year. That same $800 invested monthly for 20 years could turn into somewhere around $500,000. Read that again. $500,000. Suddenly that normal car payment doesn't feel so normal anymore. Because the real question isn't, can I afford this car? The real question is, what future am I trading for this car? And look, I know what some people are thinking right now. Life is short. You should enjoy your money. And honestly, that's true. You absolutely should. But there's a difference between enjoying money and accidentally trapping yourself. Because here's what usually happens. Someone gets a car payment in their 20s. Then upgrades in their 30s. Then another upgrade. Then another. Before they know it, they've spent decades constantly making payments. Always financing. Always upgrading. Always restarting the clock. And suddenly retirement shows up faster than expected. But the investments never got built. The freedom never came. The options never arrived. This is the part nobody warns you about. Car payments don't just cost money. They quietly reduce your choices. Hate your job? Harder to leave when you've got big monthly bills. Want to start a business? Harder when your paycheck is already spoken for. Want to take a career risk? Move cities? Travel? Work less? All of it becomes harder when your lifestyle depends on keeping expensive payments alive. That's the trap. The car doesn't own you. The payment does. And the worst part? Most people don't even realize it's happening. Because everyone around them is doing the same thing. Debt starts looking normal. Stress starts feeling normal. Living paycheck to paycheck starts feeling normal. But normal doesn't always mean smart. Now, does this mean you should never buy a nice car? Of course not. That's not the point. The point is timing. There's a huge difference between buying an expensive car to look wealthy and buying one after you've already built wealth. One makes you feel rich. The other means you actually are. And honestly, this might be the biggest mindset shift that changes everything. Wealthy people often buy luxuries from returns. Average people buy luxuries from payments. That difference sounds small. But over a lifetime? It changes almost everything. Because freedom doesn't come from looking successful. It comes from owning your time, owning your choices, and knowing that if life changes tomorrow, you'll still be okay. So before you sign for that next car, ask yourself one uncomfortable question. Is this car buying me freedom? Or quietly stealing it? Because the answer to that question might shape your financial future more than almost anything else.